Hello everyone, welcome to War Analysis channel. Ukrainian breakthrough in the South. Ukrainian troops have broken through Russia's defenses on the west bank of the Dnieper River in Kherson. But before we get into it, I'd really appreciate if you left a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new. Anyways, let's go. On Tuesday, reports suggested that they had advanced about 30 kilometers, 20 miles, and were approaching the village of Dudchany. Ukraine has been attacking Russian positions in Kherson in recent weeks, targeting Russian transportation and logistics facilities in the area. They have also attacked bridges, ferries and pontoons, attempting to make Russian positions on the west side of the river unsustainable, and thereby force a withdrawal. Ukraine makes breakthrough in south against Russia. Also in the south, the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has called for the demilitarization of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. Russian and Ukrainian sources have accused each other of shelling close to the plant, which is Europe's biggest nuclear facility. On Monday, Russia released the director of the plant, Ihor Murashov. He was detained on Friday, and it is understood that he will not be allowed to return to the facility. Russia's military took over the power station in early March, but it is still being operated by Ukrainian staff. Intense fighting in the east. Ukrainian troops took control of the key logistical hub of Lyman in Donetsk on Saturday. They are now pushing further east towards the region of Luhansk. The Institute for the Study of War, ISW, says they have made substantial gains in the area. Russian report suggests their next target may be the city of Kremlin. Analysts say the loss of Lyman is a major setback for Russia. Russian troops forced out of key East Ukraine town. The enemy is near, but we are standing firm. Lyman retreat sees rare criticism of Russian leaders. The latest fighting follows a major Russian defeat in the east. Ukraine says it recaptured 6,000 square kilometers, 2,317 square miles, of territory from Russia in early September, when it forced back Russian units in the Kharkiv region. Russian troops withdrew from the key towns of Izium and Kupiansk, saying that the retreat would allow its troops to regroup. Both towns were major logistical hubs for Russian forces in Donbass. Annexation of four regions of Ukraine, that are partially or almost completely occupied by Russia, are being annexed by the Russian Federation. It follows self-styled referendums in Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson and Zaporizhzhia, held between 23 and the 27th of September. President Vladimir Putin has said that Russia will use all the forces and resources it has to liberate the four regions. In an address to the Russian people, Mr. Putin said his country had various weapons of destruction, adding, "I'm not bluffing." The annexations follow a partial mobilization of about 300,000 Russian reservists. Mr. Putin has acknowledged mistakes in the call-up process, with some people who should not have been called up being sent to Ukraine. According to the UK Ministry of Defence, MOD, this number could be further bolstered by another 120,000 as part of the routine autumn conscription cycle, set to begin on the 1st of November. The Russians have suffered heavy losses since the invasion began, and significant quantities of Russian weaponry have also been destroyed or captured. By David Brown, Bella Horrell, Dominic Bailey, Mike Hills, Lucy Rogers, Paul Sargent, Alison Trousdale, Turil Akhmedzade, Mark Bryson, Zoe Bartholomew, Sean Wilmot, Sana Dionisio, Joy Roxas, Jerry Fletcher, Jana Taushinsk, Debbie Loizu, Simon Martin and Prina Shaw. Ukraine's northern Kharkiv counteroffensive has not yet culminated after 1 month of successful operations and is now advancing into western Luhansk Oblast. Ukrainian forces captured Rakivka and Makivka in western Luhansk Oblast, approximately 20 kilometers southwest of Svatov, on October 5. Luhansk Oblast head Serhiy Haidai reported that Ukrainian forces have begun liberating unspecified villages in Luhansk Oblast on October 5. Ukrainian forces began the maneuver phase of their counteroffensive in Kharkiv Oblast, which has now reached Luhansk Oblast on September 6. Russian forces have failed to hold the banks of the Oskil and Siversky Donets rivers and leverage them as natural boundaries to prevent Ukrainian forces from projecting into vulnerable sections of Russian-occupied northeast Ukraine. The terrain in western Luhansk is suitable for the kind of rapid maneuver warfare that Ukrainian forces used effectively in eastern Kharkiv Oblast in early September. Increasing domestic critiques of Russia's partial mobilization are likely driving Putin to scapegoat the Russian Ministry of Defense, MOD, and specifically Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. Putin deferred mobilization for all students, including part-time and master's students, via a decree on October 5. Putin told Russian outlets that because the Ministry of Defense did not make timely changes to the legal framework on the list of those who are not subject to mobilization, adjustments have to be made. That direct critique of the MOD is also an implicit critique of Shoigu, whom Putin appears to be setting up to take the fall for the failures of Putin's invasion of Ukraine. The chairperson of the Russian State Duma Defense Committee, Colonel General, Ret. Andrei Kartopalev, also criticized the MOD on Russian state television on October 5. Kartopalev said that all Russians know the MOD is lying and must stop, but that message is not reaching individual leaders, another jab at Shoigu. One Russian millblogger claimed that Kartopalev's comments demonstrate that Shoigu will soon be demolished and recognized as the main culprit of Russia's military failures. The millblogger reminded his readers that it was the Russian MOD in its head that made an invaluable and huge contribution to the fact that we are now on the verge of a military political catastrophe. Another millblogger defended Wagner financier Yevgeny Prigozhin and Chechen head Ramzan Kadyrov for criticizing the MOD, applauding them for driving necessary change. Kadyrov's announcement that Putin awarded him the rank of Colonel General is similarly indicative that Putin is willing to appease the Siloviki base that has taken continued rhetorical swings at the MOD establishment. Putin will likely hold off on firing Shoigu for as long as he feels he can in order to continue to blame Shoigu for ongoing military failures and to build up support among other factions. Shoigu's replacement will need to take responsibility for failures that occur after his tenure begins. Putin is already working to improve his support among the nationalist millbloggers in the Siloviki such as Prigozhin and Kadyrov. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov told reporters on October 5 that Prigozhin makes a great contribution within his capabilities to efforts in Russia and Ukraine and declined to answer questions surrounding Prigozhin's critiques of government officials. A millblogger emphasized on October 5 that Putin regularly hosts military correspondents, carefully reads their reports, asks the right questions, and receives objective answers, implicitly contrasting that relationship with the dishonest way in which millbloggers believe the MOD interacts with Putin. Russian authorities detained the manager of several millblogger Telegram channels on October 5, indicating that the Kremlin is likely setting limits on what criticism is allowed in the domestic Russian information space. Alexander Kunstein, the deputy secretary of the General Council of Putin's political party, United Russia, published footage on October 5 showing Russian authorities detaining Alexei Slobodanyk as an employee of Wagner financier Yevgeny Prigozhin's Patriot Media Group and the manager of several millblogger telegrams, the most prominent of which are Release Z Kraken and Scanner. The Telegram channel, Scanner, has featured criticism of major state officials and military personnel, the most prominent of whom are Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, State Duma Speaker Vyacheslav Volodin, and Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. Russian authorities detained Slobodanyk on accusations of fraud. His detention suggests that the Kremlin is attempting to set boundaries for which criticism is allowed in the information space and on which high-ranking officials, millbloggers, and journalists can criticize. Defense Minister Shoigu, Putin's likely scapegoat in waiting, now appears to be fair game, whereas officials close to Putin such as Lavrov and Putin's spokesperson are off limits. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video.